Hi, my name is Richard Hughes from the Grog Shop in Pontypridd. We're a business that makes figurines of rugby players, footballers and famous personalities. In the beginning, when my dad first started making named personalities, he started with Gareth Edwards, who's a very famous rugby player in Wales. The figures were different, they weren't like they are today, but they were always very respectful of what we were doing, which is just as well because the figures were a little bit more grotesque than they are today, but they saw it as a compliment and took it as such, and that's why we've now got a wide collection of memorabilia in the shop, because they swap shirts. It's kind of an unspoken thing that if we make a grog of someone, they sometimes give us some of their kit, like shirts or boots and stuff, which is on display in the shop as well. And yeah, they know that if we make a figure of them, it's because the public are asking for a grog to be made. So it's not so much our choice, but it does mean that they're in demand from the public. It's kind of like bragging rights for them if they've been grogged. Yeah, it's something sort of special. I learned what I do from my dad. My dad used to joke, he used to say that I taught Richard to put together 2 pieces of clay, and he took it from there. But in fact, I watched my father working for many years as a child. I grew up almost as an apprentice to him, but my particular thing was faces. My dad could do some people's faces, but he struggled with more refined people's features. So my father would get so far with a figure and I would take over. I'd finish the hands and the face. But that's what I specialised in, and then my dad, when I was about 17, I took over making all the faces, and I've been doing it ever since. But my dad carried on making dragons and things that were less demanding in that set of skills really. But it's something I've always done, and I've done it now for almost 50 years. So I should know what I'm doing now. This is a famous incident of Gareth Edwards handing off the all black fly half Bob Burgess, and we went on to pass to Barry John, who scored under the post. So I've made this as a 30th anniversary piece. Very complicated, probably the most complicated figure we've ever done. But this is what we call a maquette. I made that to see if it would work. That's the actual master figure which we saved, which normally gets destroyed in the mold making process. And this is the only one left. And we've kept that for the museum. And that's the famous incident there. We actually lifted him off his feet. Okay, so some of the things in the cabinet in the museum here are what my dad was making back in the early 60s. These are unusual things. They're figures from the Mabinogion, which is a book of Welsh folk tales. But people didn't understand what they were. But Dad carried on and eventually got the idea of making rugby figures, which are in this cabinet here. And these are the first rugby figures he ever made of Gareth Edwards and JPR Williams. My personal favourite subject matters when I was a child, and still is, was JPR Williams, who was a huge hero of mine because of the way he looked on the field. He always had flowing long hair, he was always cut, he had blood on him, scars on him, so he was just a model maker's dream. And one of my favourite pieces I made was of Eric Cantona, who was another great hero of mine. Not a rugby player but a footballer. But this was a piece I made back in the 90s, and it showed what we could do with the new material of resin as opposed to the old clay, which was more restrictive. I've got a grandson called Milo, and my sister's got a grandson called James, and they're in the environment I was in as a child, but they've got iPads already, and they've got, the world is a different place. I grew up in a shed with my dad, really working with clay, or I was up the mountain, so I had those two options. But kids have got a lot of options open to them now, and to try and get someone to sit still and work with clay is a tricky thing. So I must have just had an aptitude for it and wanted to be like my dad. I don't think that's the situation now. So to train someone is a frustrating thing, I think. And so I don't know. I think I'm the end of the line.